Welcome to another episode of Women in Focus. Our woman in focus today works in the field of law. So she's a lawyer, and the first time I heard about her was when she had done a TEDx, and it was all about empathy. Let's meet Kiran Kang, who's our woman in focus today. How are you doing?
Hi, Shashmaji. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
It is a pleasure. Tell me about what you did at TEDx, and did it have anything to do with empathy?
Yes, so I recently had the privilege of delivering a TEDx talk in Vancouver, and my topic was the power of empathy and seeing it as a tool for professional success.
Wow. And how did that come about?
Well, it really was a culmination of my experiences. As you mentioned, I'm a lawyer. I've been practicing for 10 years now. And so...
How old are you? I mean, you look like 18, 19 years old to me. So well, 10 years?
Yes.
Wow.
I did go to law school right after I finished my undergrad degree, so I didn't really take any breaks in between.
Okay.
But my experiences as a lawyer really made me think about how we as a society view empathy. And, it was just such a big part of my life and who I am as a person. And I really started to think that we need to rethink how we think about empathy. We don't need to see it as a weakness. We don't need to see it as a soft skill. Really, we should be thinking about it as a powerful tool.
Isn't that beautiful? Because many people, as you mentioned, do think empathy, only weaklings, think about others. But powerful people, if they have empathy, wouldn't the world be a much better place to live in?
Absolutely. It would be a much more thoughtful place to be in. It would be more inclusive. There's just, the possibilities by incorporating empathy into our lives seem endless, really.
Give me an example. So, say for example, I am sitting here talking to you, okay? And you're thinking about things, and while you were writing, there must have been something that you thought of that I must talk about. Give me an example.
So I was thinking about it from my personal experience. When I started out in family law, people would often look at me and wonder if I was first really a lawyer, and their next question for me was usually, are you a shark or are you a pit bull? And I would look at them and kind of be confused because I don't think I look like a shark or a pit bull. I generally think of myself as a very reasonable, personable individual.
Right.
And my job, I would see it as understanding what the problem was and what I could do to help resolve their problem.
Right.
And I didn't think that I needed to be aggressive to get it done.
No.
In fact, I thought it would be better resolved if I was not a shark or not a pit bull and had a better understanding of why the problem existed in the first place. So it really started turning my wheels and wondering, well, why do people think that lawyers should be a certain way to be able to resolve their problem? And so that's kind of where the topic originated from for me. And of course, I started thinking about other areas and, women in the corporate world and, women in technology. And that was really what drove me to talk about it.
Isn't that beautiful? Just recently we had our premier in our office, and he's a lawyer by profession. And I said to him, I think, in my mind, I think lawyers are a totally different breed. They think differently. And I said that to him. And I said, I think they think outside of the box. And he said, actually, yes and no. I think they think inside the box as well. So, in my mind, what I was thinking was that what I can't in my day-to-day life think about, and it's not in my realm of thinking, it is in the realm of thinking of a lawyer.
So it's interesting because in law school, we learn to analyze a problem, right?
Okay.
We learn to critically assess a situation and apply legal principles to it, to be able to tell people what is their likelihood of success if they take option A or take option B.
Right.
And I think initially, the role is really to problem solve.
Yeah.
But as time has gone on, we're really starting to see more of an acceptance of the adversarial system, which is more, here's individual A and they have this problem, and here's individual B, and they're their opposite or their opponent, and who has the better argument, right? And so when I think about it, to me, there's a gap, because I wonder, well, who's the person solving the problem, right? And so it's really interesting how lawyers by profession, how the profession shapes us and shapes what we can do for people.
So would I be right in thinking that to be a lawyer or to resolve a situation, you use law first, and then the condition that or the situation that they are in, the two people?
I think that is very individual. I think
Okay.
at the end of it, we all have the same legal training. We,
Right.
we are required to have an undergraduate degree, most of us, and then we
Right.
go to law school, and then we're required to pass the bar exam. And after that, it's really your own experiences within law, within where you've worked, who you've been mentored by, that really shape how you address legal problems. And so in my area, I only practice family law. And so I'm only dealing with individuals who are either separating, going through a divorce, or they're going to get married. Or there might be some issues that have arisen after a separation. And so for me, the human element of law is
important.
It's incredibly important. It's
Right.
really the foundation for my area of practice. I can't speak to the other areas.
No, I know, and I'm interested in family law because it's a very emotional law, right? I mean, the other laws you can be detached, but in family law you do get attached. So I'll take a short commercial break and come back, and it'll explain to me why you got into family law when I talk about you as a child.
Sure, that sounds great.
Kiran as a woman is focused today. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Our woman in focus today is a lawyer. Her name is Kiran Kang, and we were talking about family law. And I mentioned that family law is full of emotion, right? So let me just take you to your childhood. Where were you born?
I was born in Vancouver.
No kidding.
BC. Yes, haven't gone very far.
No. That's nice. What was your childhood like?
Oh, my childhood was amazing. I'm very fortunate. I grew up with my mom and my dad and my two biological siblings.
Yes.
I have a brother and a sister. And I was also lucky enough to grow up with my cousins. So I grew up with 5 of them. And so I was the youngest of 8 kids.
No kidding.
Yes.
The baby of...
The baby of the family. And I think that's probably where I learned most of my negotiating, was in my interactions with my siblings.
That's just beautiful. I'll give you this if you give me that.
Well, being the youngest, you often were, my bargaining power was very low. So I had to get innovative early on.
Yeah. If I go back to my childhood, I was number 2 and in between 2 brothers. So I got everything I wanted. I didn't have to, I had to just give it to me. I got it. So when you were growing up, did you always wanted to be a lawyer?
I did.
Really?
I did. And I don't know why I did, because in my family, the majority of people in my family are in the medical profession.
Wow.
I'm the only lawyer in the family. And
Which is good in a way.
And it was interesting because I was always kind of interested in social sciences and understanding human behavior. And a lot of the topics that would come up in medicine, empathy was a big part there. And so it was one of those things where I think I was influenced by my family and their profession,
Right.
in a positive way in mine.
So becoming a lawyer and then choosing family law, you mentioned, empathy means a lot to you, and that was the reason why. So in a case, there are 2 sides, and to each coin there are 2 sides, the good and the bad, okay? So your client has good values, and your client also has bad values, and the opponent has the same, good and bad. So how do you maneuver in that in family law? Do you listen to a person coming up to you and say, I want to use you as a legal counsel? Do you listen to their story and then decide, yes, I want to take them or no?
Well, typically I will have an initial consultation. Generally, I love people.
Yes.
So unless there's something that I think I'm not the best fit for that person, I generally will take them on.
Yes.
But the first thing I do is try to understand them. And for me, it's not just understanding their legal situation at the time, it's understanding who they are. Because oftentimes when people get to a certain situation in their legal issue, there's been all of these events that have happened before they got there.
That's right.
And there's been all of these misunderstandings. There's been a lot of events, really, that have shaped who they are and who their spouse is and why they can't see eye to eye on something. So, you know, to give you an example, a client might come to me and say, well, I don't know why my wife, she, you know, might be complaining that I'm not doing enough, I'm not around the house enough, or I'm not doing X, Y, Z. And really, it's not about who's washing the dishes. It's not about who's doing the cooking and the cleaning. It's really about something deeper, a deeper misunderstanding, a deeper, you know, emotional connection, really, that sometimes gets missed. And in family law, we're all human, right? We all have the same emotions. We all have the same sort of desires. And most of that stems from being understood.
Right.
And
so when you are meeting with people and when you are trying to resolve their issues, do you have to be, I mentioned that don't have to be aggressive or anything like that. You have to be understanding, right?
Yeah,
that's what you're trying to say, right? And you understand both viewpoints. Have you found it difficult to explain to your client, okay, listen to that other person. That person is making sense.
Well, I think that when clients come to me, the first thing I tell them is they have to trust me. They have to trust my approach, and they have to trust that I am asking for the information that I legitimately need to help them.
Right.
And what I do a lot of is reframing. So a lot of the work is centered around giving them a different perspective, because they might see something. I'm sure their spouse has told them the same thing that I'm going to tell them multiple times.
Yes.
Right? And so it's not that I have some magical ability to share some information in a way that is going to change their life. Really, it's just getting them to open their mind to see the other side, to be able to create some space for greater understanding.
When a young couple is getting married, do you advise them to have, or is it, that's not the question, is it imperative in today's day and age to have a, what do you call it, when before you get married you have a prenup?
Yes.
Is prenup important?
Shashmaji, you have touched on a topic that has just been the front of my mind for so long, because I've noticed in our community, we have placed so many judgments on prenups. You refer to it as prenups, but in the legal world, we either call it a cohabitation agreement or a marriage agreement. So a cohabitation agreement is for people who are living common law, they're not married.
Right.
And a marriage agreement is for people who are getting married or are married.
Right.
And I think it is crucial for us to at least entertain the idea, because it's not so much the result of the agreement, it's the conversation beforehand that's important.
Okay, that's a fantastic topic. I want to take a very short break and come back. Are you okay talking about that? All right. Kiran is our Woman in Focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Our Woman in Focus today is Kiran. And Kiran, we were talking about how many things should we adopt within our own culture so that, you know, life is seamless and beautiful.
I think it's so crucial for us to really think critically about marriage. I think I'm seeing younger couples come into my office sooner than they should be there. And it's becoming apparent to me that the conversations that are so important for a healthy and long marriage might not be happening. And prenups, or, you know, as we call them, cohabitation or marriage agreements more commonly, those are an opportunity for people to lay out their expectations about each other and expectations about their relationship.
Right.
You know, it's an opportunity for couples to think about, what do they want their 5 years life to look like 10 years from now? Is somebody going to stay at home to raise the kids? Are both people career oriented? How are they going to manage their life together? And I think those conversations are so crucial because they really help avoid so many misunderstandings down the road.
Right. So that brings me to the point of majority of the marriages in our community are prearranged. So by the time you figure out that you guys don't have anything in common, it's many years into the marriage. So both the spouses then start compromising, and then the living arrangement continues going, bitterness, maybe happiness, whatever, you know. But I think in today's day and age, and I've seen many young people, and I'm saying this because I am noticing these young people get so excited about getting married because the idea of marriage is just Bollywood and all that hangama and all. And then they realize, hey, this is not what I really wanted. And I know of a marriage that ended within a year of getting married. So should the parents realize that the kids need to know each other a bit longer before they just tie the knot?
Absolutely. And it's not just getting to know each other and going on fun dates with each other and taking pictures. It's more about having deep conversations. And
that's what they don't do.
Absolutely. And I think that they may not know that that's what they need to do.
Right.
Because we don't necessarily talk about it as a community.
No, we don't.
You know, and in our families, we don't sit and have deep conversations about what a marriage should look like, or
Right.
you know, what do you do when you can't agree on something? How do you resolve conflict? So most of our experiences with conflict resolution, they occur in our day-to-day lives with our families. You know, as I mentioned before, conflict resolution for me, I was the youngest of 8 siblings. I had to figure it out really fast.
Right.
What skills work, what skills don't. But in the context of marriage agreements, I think that what we really should focus on is maybe having some premarital counseling. Maybe having some sort of space for people to be able to have these deep conversations, and if they don't know where to start, somebody can guide them.
I think that is not going to happen in the community, because then there is this taboo attached to that. Hey, don't you know, everybody gets married and everybody is happy. That kind of a statement. So I think the community doesn't like going for counseling. That is something that just they don't like it. It's probably a sign of weakness in their mind.
A sign of weakness, just as showing empathy or showing kindness or showing warmth. And so I think it's so important for us to really rethink how we take those topics, because it's not. Going to see a counselor or going to see a lawyer and understanding your rights and your responsibilities to each other is much more empowering than finding out 10 years down the road that things maybe haven't worked out the way you want them to, and now you've lost your youth or you've lost an opportunity. So I really think that's the conversation we need to be having.
So isn't that interesting that, you know, we as a community continue to evolve and learn more. And I think we need more people like you in our community to tell people what they really need to know and what is right and what is wrong. Well, you know, in a situation, nothing is right and nothing is wrong, right?
You're right.
Everything is right and everything is wrong.
That's right.
So First of all, I think the community needs to understand that they can go for counseling and there is nothing wrong with that.
You know, I think that people think that if you go for counseling, there's a problem that needs to be fixed. But what I think it needs to be known as is it's a space to be able to talk. And, you know, when I think back to my childhood, most of our talking was around the dinner table. Most of our talking was finding out about each other's day and listening and just understanding that around the table is a place that's safe, a place that we can say what we want to say. We're not going to be judged. I mean, of course, there's going to be jabs from your siblings.
Yes.
You know, that builds character.
Yes.
But when you think about counseling, it's just a space.
Yeah.
There's really no judgments that should be attached to it.
Beautifully said. And I think that dinner table conversation probably has slowly and gradually ended because both the parents are working, children have their own little thing to do. There are telephones and phones that kids are attached to. So probably we have to go back to that wholesome living again.
And it's funny you say that because I think that's just the theme that keeps coming back over and over, no matter what it is, whether we're talking about, you know, in the courtroom, whether we're talking about in boardrooms. The main skill is understanding, being curious.
Yeah.
And that is so basic that, you know, I think back to, you know, I think about my toddler. He is curious about life.
Yes.
You know, and I learned so much from him, watching him, because he's just soaking everything in. And I think about us, and at what point did we lose that?
Right.
Right? And having the ability to just listen and be present, that is really where we do our most creative thinking. That's where we do our creative problem solving. That's really where we do everything.
We do. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I'm wondering the same thing. I mean, I'm so passionate about mediation.
Right.
I really would like to be a well-known mediator in the city.
Wow.
And I really would like to bring mediation to our community.
All the more power to you, Kiran.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a woman in focus today.
Thank you for the honor and the privilege.
Kiran Kang has been our woman in focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back.